Early first century Judea was a world on edge. Rome's iron hand lay heavy on the land through client rulers like Herod Antipas and a rotating cast of prefects and procurators, while the temple aristocracy tried to preserve a fragile status quo that pleased neither the empire nor the people. Socially and spiritually, the nation stood in a state of profound tension. Covenant promises seemed distant, political liberation elusive, and the daily life of ordinary Jews was marked by economic pressure, social stratification, and a growing sense that things could not continue as they were. Into that atmosphere of religious weariness and political unrest stepped a voice that did not come from Jerusalem's courts or temple precincts, but from the wilderness. John the Baptist's emergence in this turbulent landscape was itself a theological event. He did not build a school in the city. He summoned Israel out to the Jordan. He did not offer minor adjustments to existing practices. He proclaimed that God's decisive intervention was at hand and demanded repentance, sealed in a once-for-all baptism. His appearance at the margins, clothed like the prophets of old, crying out in desolate places, announced that God was again speaking in the cadence of Elijah. Crowds streamed out to hear him, and among them were not only peasants and pilgrims, but young tradesmen and craftsmen, men for whom the established order held little hope and whose hearts were quick to sense that change was near. John gathered around himself not a quiet Bible study circle, but a movement, and that movement felt to both people and rulers like the first tremors of an eschatological earthquake. Yet for all this, John the Baptist occupies a surprisingly small place in much contemporary biblical theology. Modern readers tend to remember him as the eccentric cousin of Jesus, a desert ascetic in camel's hair with a strange diet and a severe tone, a colorful prelude who exits the stage once the real story begins. When he is mentioned in preaching or scholarship, it is often to underscore his cultural oddity or his personal humility rather than to probe the depth of his theological role. Popular retellings move quickly from his early chapters in the Gospels to the miracles and teaching of Jesus, as though John's only function were to serve as a narrative on-ramp that can be safely ignored once the Christ event is in full view. That John the Baptist was one of the most polarizing and theologically decisive figures of his generation, and that his ministry cannot be sidelined without distorting the shape of redemptive history. Before Jesus began his public work, John was already drawing disciples, creating a network of repentant, expectant Israelites ready to receive God's anointed king. He stood at the hinge of the ages as the last and greatest prophet of the Old Covenant, embodying in his own person the law's demand for repentance and the prophet's hope for a coming Lord. To say that without John there is no Jesus is not to diminish Christ, but to recognize that the Messiah arrives by a prepared road. Without the voice in the wilderness, there is no public voice from heaven declaring, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." John's work is thus not incidental, but structural. He is the divinely appointed transition point from Adam's broken covenant to the new covenant in the second Adam. John the Baptist must be understood as a uniquely polarizing herald whose ministry catalyzed the Messianic era and stands as a pivotal node in the drama of salvation. John divided his contemporaries. Some repented and were baptized, others dismissed him, and still others feared the political implications of his growing influence. That very polarization exposes the fault lines of Israel's spiritual condition and sets the stage for the even sharper division that Jesus himself would bring by tracing John's historical setting, his prophetic identity, his message, and his relationship to Jesus. This study aims to recover John's theological particularity and to show how his ministry provides a clear path and a smooth road from the Old Covenant to the New. In short, to understand the Gospel's Christ, one must first listen carefully to the Gospel's herald. I hope this video has blessed and challenged you. Your comments and questions are always welcome. I have more lectures on John the Baptist coming, so remember to subscribe so you don't miss them.